أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على خير خلقه أجمعين محمد وعلى اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أصحابهم الغر الميامين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. Respected brothers, sisters, listeners, audience, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. The Quran uh, presents life to us as a journey. I'll use two verses to substantiate this. It presents life to us as a journey that has a starting point and has an ending point. You see, so the starting point being in the verse that we quote when somebody passes us away, we say what? Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Meaning what? Meaning life starts from Allah, we come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we return to Him. That is the cycle that we have to go through. Right? So inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, that is a course of life that we follow. Then the Quran again tells us that, and on this journey, وَتَزَوَّدُوا, take up provision. فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. And the greatest provision on this journey is what? Taqwa, as we explained in previous discussions that we've had. Now, this life journey, it has milestones. It has milestones. There are points where you reach, then you're like, oh, okay, no, I've reached this. I've reached, for example, the first stage, the starting point of this life is that the embryo and so on and so forth until birth, first milestone. Then after birth, it's teething. Then after teething, it's crawling, or sitting, crawling, standing, walking, then talking, then bulugh, taklif, bulugh/taklif, then adulthood, and so on and so forth. So these milestones, we have to look at them as well. Not only these physical milestones that we discussed, these biological ones, but we also have to look at milestones. Sorry, milestones also in terms of our growth, our maturity, our intellect as well. You see, let me make an example here. You know how no, sorry. So these milestones as well, they bring us to today's discussion that is more appropriate to everyone else than here than myself, which is finding Islam. How did you find Islam? When did you find Islam? Where did you find Islam? For me, it was easy. I was just born, and every time I grew up, there was either Asma'ul Husna on the wall, Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad is still there at home, Ayatul Kursi. So that's where I found Islam, and when and how. That's it for me. But for others, it's a more interesting story than the one that we have as people born to Muslim parents. We're all born Muslims, so I don't use that term anymore. For us who are born to Muslim parents, the story ends there. We saw Islam at home, we became Muslim. But for example, you can say, nah, that's how I became Muslim, but then where did we find Islam? Like I always tell people that I found Islam in Kibaha, Tanzania, because that is where I learned to recite the Quran. That is where I thoroughly learned the basics of my religion. That is where I used to tell Marhum Dumsan Shoba that I became Muslim at 19. He's like, no, but you were born to Muslim parents. I'm like, yeah, but I became Muslim at 19. That's when I discovered it for myself. And but it's still not as interesting as majority of those in attendance today. Those who found Islam at ages 25, 20, 30, 40, whenever. Your stories are more interesting than mine. Mine, I have to juice it up. I have to spice it up and say Kibaha, Tanzania, when I was 19, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, it's because I was born to Muslim parents. So, you know how when online shopping, or for those of us who donate blood, when you go donate blood, there's that question that where did you hear about us? Word of mouth, word of mouth, the internet, at work, referral, and so on and so forth, right? So, this is also now where we have to take this as a milestone and pause now on this journey and look back. Where did you find Islam? How did you find Islam? And when did you find Islam? One of our brothers, very interesting, he says that before he officially became Muslim, he used to tell Muslims that, look, I'm not going to die except as a Muslim. Trust me. Today he is a Muslim, alhamdulillah. Uh, I'm not sure for how long, but he's a Muslim now, alhamdulillah. uh, Also did his nikah, has his children who have the same perks as I do now, born to Muslim parents. Alhamdulillah. You see, this is a very interesting story and discussion to have. Now, last night we spoke about the coming from a non-Muslim family slash Muslim non-Muslim society, slash non-Muslim extended family. We spoke about that, and we discussed or maybe ran through the conditions that we are faced with in South Africa, in the townships, in the rurals, wherever we may find ourselves, where it's not a Muslim majority place, and then we have to come from that situation and become Muslim. So finding Islam in South Africa must be very difficult. I don't know, I can't relate. Maybe for me, the discussion should be staying Muslim. Maybe we can have that discussion. At this point, I need to mention that, okay, maybe I'll do this, inshallah, on my YouTube page, interview several brothers, call it Finding Islam, and hear the story of each and every one. And we document it there and save it there for Finding Islam, for people to refer to, and inshallah, possibly it can help us spread the word as well. That's idea. Don't steal my idea. I need to get it patented on King ICPIP. Forgot what it's called. Anyway, I've enlisted here 6 ways that people find Islam in South Africa. This is based on my small research and mild pondering. Okay, the first one is prison, and this is quite common. It's very common. You'll be surprised with. I didn't know about this until I was much older. There was one of our neighbors who was going to court. He asked me to borrow him a tishtashe, a kurta, so that he goes to appear in court in a kurta, so that if he's convicted, he'll be put with the Muslims. And then I'm like, why? Okay, better treatment. So few years later, somebody else from the neighborhood also became Muslim in prison. A few years later, so these are 3 different people. A few years later, I met someone who admitted that, look, I became Muslim in prison because I saw the Muslims getting better treatment than everyone else, better food, better so and so. I'm like, oh, okay. But today, mashallah, he's a sincere follower of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, a sincere Muslim brother. Uh, May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep him Muslim and bless his life. Uh, Most importantly, with a wife soon, inshallah. So, this is one way that people find Islam. And some find it not only for the better treatment, some do it, yes, for the better treatment. So, I'll mention this better, that maybe due to the reason some don't stay Muslim, we'll talk about that. But some find it sincerely in prison. They meet a Muslim in prison, and then this Muslim helps to guide them and all that. Now in that place of confinement where, we go to i'tikaf in the month of Ramadan, right, where we seclude ourselves, isolate ourselves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So prison is sort of that setup. Imam al-Kadhim as well says in one of his last statements is that, oh Allah, you have given me an opportunity to worship you by putting me in prison. But now this one, he's oppressing me too much. It's difficult. Oh Allah, grant me freedom. You see? So prison has that um, effect that it can have. So some people every day maybe discussing with a Muslim in prison, then they sincerely fall in love with this and then they become Muslim. Not only for the treatment, good food and so on and so forth. I get that's one way that people become Muslim. Number two is interacting with Muslims, like the story that I mentioned of the brother who was not Muslim at the time, but due to interacting with Muslims was like, I'm definitely gonna be Muslim soon. There was maybe was waiting for a sign, maybe was waiting for something to convince him, maybe was waiting for something there to show him that no, but he had made the decision that look, I'm gonna head this direction, and under this fold, this is how I'll be laid to rest. You see. So very interesting, by interacting with Muslims, and this is very good. This is why Sheikh Noor Muhammad, our teacher, our mentor, always loved to say whenever we had programs and gatherings that you are all ambassadors of Islam. So the way you interact with people might attract them to Islam, and that is very important. The third way that some people become Muslim is through zakat. Maybe there might be a murmur in the crowd, or some people might be wondering now how is zakat. There's a kind of zakat called zakat mu'allafatil qulub. It's don't laugh at it, don't giggle at it, or don't take it as funny. There is a kind of zakat called zakat mu'allafatil qulub. So there are some people you give them zakat in order to buy their heart, for them to come to Islam. You can do that, and there are some people due to um, personally I don't like it. I don't like doing it, uh, but it's very good. It's very good. It has its impact. It has its place in society. It is a necessity. So that's why I have participated in it, and I will continue participating in it. Giving people food parcels, giving people meals during the month of Ramadan and outside of the month of Ramadan. Those packages that Muslims like. Then that thing, as my father always says, that it's not only about getting people to be Muslim, but it's also about reducing the enemies of Islam or gaining an ally for Islam. That's basically zakat mu'allafatil qulub. So you take that zakat, you give it to non-Muslims, and then slowly but surely, if they don't become Muslim, maybe their children become Muslim. They're like, yeah, you know what? Muslims have always been good to my family. These are good people. I want to be of these people. They join the Muslims, and then tomorrow they also participate in those food drives, water drives, and school shoe drive, and everything in the name of Islam, and it grows. Perhaps this is one of the other easy ways that people do become Muslim. The fourth way that people become Muslim, and this is how that the Suleiman Chinyani became Muslim, along with his wife Atiya Chinyani Al Marhuma, through reading. Through reading. Okay, my father is a combination of interacting with Muslims and reading. His story is that he was working somewhere, so the desk, they were sharing it in terms of shifts. Desk he was working, there was a copy of Surah Al-Fatiha in there, and then um, he compared this to the scriptures that he had from the Christian faith, and then slowly but surely learned more, read, and became Muslim. Alhamdulillah. Today he has two sons who are benefiting the community. I don't want to say scholars, but facts are facts. Through reading, and this is the best one, because through reading, you get the knowledge, you create the arguments yourself in your mind, you equip yourself with counter arguments, you equip yourself with understanding, you equip yourself. There's this thing that Silomutzei likes to say. He says that we have to get information, then digest it, and it becomes knowledge. Then we live by it, and then it becomes intellect. You see, so your intellect becomes now guided by those books that you read. So this is a very good way that many people have become Muslim. Maybe one of the best ways that many people become Muslim and find Islam through reading, through um, researching for themselves. This is a very good one. The fifth one, through admiring Muslim. I put this one fifth, not because it's better than reading, but because just to tell us all that are in attendance, myself first, that this is a way that we can get people to be Muslim. Be a model citizen, be a model human being, be a model individual such that others want to be like you. Or other parents, they're like, you know what, my son, why are you not like that one? Or you should be more like that one. There are some people who became Muslims that way. And this is a very good one. As the famous hadith we know from ascribed to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, what does he say? Call people without using your tongues. Call people via your actions. Two different hadith. This is very good. This is the one of the best ways. Then people want to emulate you. As the Quran says, إِنَّكَ عَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. The one, you prophet, are upon great morality and ethics. And we display this mostly in the month of Ramadan. Okay. So those ethics should not end with iftar, now that we box each other and punch each other when the food is laid on the table. No, no, no. We should always have that spirit of akhlaq and be like, no, please, you eat before me. No, tafaddal, before me. You know. So this one is very important. We should make this a mission that we become those model Muslims and try to be what people want to aspire to be like, inshallah. The third one is marriage. This one is mild. I'll put this one last because I want to quickly run through it, but I'm going to come back to it at the end of the talk, inshallah. At the end of the discussion, inshallah. There are men who become, later I'll talk about women, now let's talk about men. There are men who become Muslim for the sake of marriage. He meets a Muslim sister, they can't do anything, he can't get her to be his girlfriend, he can't get her to be his wife. Why? Biggest hurdle, she's Muslim. No, my father won't allow this, first of all. My religion won't allow this. So brother is now forced to, okay, no, isn't there a loophole, so on and so forth. And then he ends up saying, okay, you know what, I'll either from the 5 previous ones, then he becomes Muslim for the sake of marriage. Good reason, bad reason, good reason. Because marriage, if marriage, this greatest, according to the hadith of the Prophet, this greatest institution in Islam can inspire somebody to become Muslim, it's very good. Don't look down on people who become Muslim for the sake of marriage, men or women. Men or women, don't look down upon them at all. Now, this journey, again, as we read in Ziyarat, as I always mention that these ziyarat, or these du'as, they have lessons in them. So in Ziyarat Aminullah for Imam Ali alayhi salam, we say, وَصُلْبُ الرَّاغِبِينَ إِلَيْكَ شَارِعًا. And the paths, or the ways, or and the paths towards you, O Allah, are indeed clear, are indeed well set. You can see them. Church Street N4, N3 to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are there. They are clear for everyone. So all 6 of these ways that I mentioned for one to find Islam, legitimate. Why? Because they all lead to finding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They all lead towards finding Islam. So we are all here now, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah for Islam. Whether you found it at birth, like myself, or these 6 ones, it's very good. Alhamdulillah, you are here. But now you are here. It's a where to from here question now, because it's not like this is the destination. No, I've become Muslim, khalas, like other people do. No, I've become Muslim, and then they don't practice Islam. They don't do this and that. They don't do. But then, because we are Muslims, hopefully devoted Muslims, we have to bury them the Islamic way. We don't have a choice. That is our obligation. That is their right upon us. Again, that is their right upon us, that we have to bury them. It's like getting to an airport. You can't tell me, oh, Tambo is your destination. Yes, if you're traveling by a car or via Bolt, that's your destination. But then where to from there? You have to check in, and then after checking in, you get into a plane, and then after getting to a plane, you fly to another destination. Also, when you get there, whether you're going to either you're going through to transit, or you're going to the destination. So if you're going to Iraq, you have to transit in Dubai. What are you going to do when you get there to that transition while waiting approximately 8 hours before flying to Baghdad or Najaf? Then you fly to Najaf. Also, Najaf airport is not your destination. You have to get out of the airport, then get a taxi, then. You see, it's a continuous journey. That's how this journey of life is. That's how it is also with Islam. You are here, you are at OR Tambo. Where are you going now? Are you going domestic flight, Durban, Cape Town, Port, Gqeberha, or Uppington? Where are you flying to? Or are you going international, Cairo, DXB, Dubai? Where are you going to transit to somewhere else? Where to from now? You see, now this is the time to, because the journey is continuous, this is the time for Islamic habits. And what I mean by Islamic habits is not only praying, fasting, tasbih, and whatnot. These are very good and these are imperative. Monday and Thursday fast. Before Fajr, pray that 2 rak'at. Um, Always have your sibha, so that when you don't have anything good to say, just take your sibha. Those are Islamic habits. But other Islamic habits that are very important for your soul and for your heart. Sayyid Kamal al-Haidari says something very interesting. He says that learning fiqh, the jurisprudence, is good for this world. It it's good for this world so that you do things correctly, and it grants you admittance to Jannah. You have entered Jannah now. Admission approved, khalas. Then your level in Jannah, it will be based on how well you know your religion. So how well you know your religion, how well you know your tawheed, basically, how well you know your nubuwa, how well you know your imama, your aqaid. This determines your level in Jannah. This is your understanding of theology. This is according to Sayyid Kamal al-Haidari, hafidhahullah. So these Islamic habits now that you need to have: reading, definitely, uh, listening to lectures, attending lessons, having discussions. These are Islamic habits. In a week, dedicate a week. You know, the in Lodiam and elsewhere they have this culture of having halaqat where people go and have we. Those are very important. Whether you have them online or in person, it's fine. Have a place where you gather with people to discuss. Can you see now that the first audio book is the Quran, and the first book club is Islam? You have to find yourself. So these things of having these habits, they'll help you find yourself in Islam. Because then, for example, I'm vendor. Then pretty soon my family will say we are pedi. So I have that crisis in myself. I'm trying to find myself in Islam. Okay, which of my cultures can I practice and which are haram, which are halal? What can I eat from my tribal meals? What can I not eat? I'm also in that trouble now. We are not a homogeneous community as well. There are Zulus amongst us, Xhosas, Pedis, Tswanas, and Ndebeles, Tsongas, everyone. We have everyone here. Again, so if that responsibility of finding that culture rests only on Hussein Chinyani, who also has that problem with himself, it's going to be difficult. I'm not going to achieve it. It means I'm going to spend from today, 30 years old, until 40 years old to come up with a, a, a mode of a mode of action for Muslims and culture. By that time, the culture has evolved. It's going to be difficult, I guess. So by reading, by listening to lectures, by having discussions, by attending lessons, we can find ourselves in Islam. We can, again, we can, as-su'al miftahul ilm. The question is the key to knowledge. We can then have deeper understanding by the questions we ask the shuyukh, the ulama that we have in our communities. So you can find yourself. Find yourself how, for because also in terms of reading, you'll find that you relate to one of the companions of the Prophet or of the Imams, and you're like, you know what, I relate to this person. Maybe I should see how he navigated life. There are books on many of them. You'll find that how he or she navigated life, and then you emulate them or you put their principles in your life, and then these things help you as well. This is now beyond culture. This is now in becoming a better person. Now, for women in marriage as well, there are some sisters. With men, I get it's difficult because you have to become the leader of the family. So you have to become Muslim and then marry the lady. Now, with some ladies, they become Muslim right before she says Zawaj to Kanafsi. And this is a fact. I've heard this several times that some ladies, after being Muslim for 10, 17 years, now she doesn't wear hijab anymore. She says, no, I want to redefine myself, find myself in Islam. You see, these discussions are very important to have, like the one that we're having tonight. That if the lady becomes Muslim right before she says Qabiltu, it is important on the husband, it's his responsibility primarily, and the local scholar, of course, and upon her even more to find herself in Islam. So that should there be a divorce, should there be a demise, should the brother leave her either due to divorce or death, she stays Muslim. There's a brother who was approached by several non-Muslim ladies. He's very handsome, alhamdulillah. I won't mention his name. So many ladies were throwing themselves at him. So he's like, no, if I die, who's going to raise my kids as Muslims? My kids have to be Muslims. So just because they throw themselves at me and I'm handsome and they are pretty, I must just say, no, I can't do that. Alhamdulillah, thinking for the future, you see. So if he did accept any of those proposals, it's upon those ladies to learn about Islam. So that should he leave her, either to due to death or divorce, they are the same thing actually, to death or divorce, then she can continue raising the children as Muslims. How many cases do we have where a relationship breaks between a Muslim brother and a non-Muslim brother, and then the kids are now left in the middle because the mother is back to her previous religion, and they live with her, and so on and so forth, you see. So it's very important via these habits to find ourselves in Islam so that we can be better Muslims. From when we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah until other people carry us now, where we are no more walking horizontally but are now vertically. No more vertically but are now horizontally, and people carry us and they say on our behalf La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. That was supposed to be a punchline, I messed it up. You see, from the time you say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah while you are walking vertically, now when other people are carrying you horizontally and they are saying it on your behalf, that La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, you have to be a good Muslim. Find yourself in Islam, inshallah. Why this is important? Yes, you have found Islam. Alhamdulillah, you're here. You're at the airport. Now fly. Now check in, board and fly and take off. Land somewhere else in terms of your Islam. Because this is a responsibility. Again, I quote Sheikh Noor. You are all ambassadors of Islam. People have to see Islam from you. They have to aspire for Islam through looking at you. There's a dua that we recite every night after dua al-iftitah. وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غيري. Make me of those that your religion triumphs via them, and don't change anyone but me. These are things that we should aspire for, and these are things that we should always bear in mind. That, I remember when we landed in Kibaha. Well, Kibaha was better. When we landed in Kibaha, Tanzania, we started getting, already, you just landed. I just arrived. Already questions, Sheikh, how do you explain this? They already call you Sheikh, how do you explain this? And so on and so forth. When we got to Najaf, it became worse. When we got to Iraq, it became worse. You just landed there. You're still learning Arabic. You haven't even studied any book, but you're getting more and more and more and more questions daily. Deeper questions now. No more shallow questions. Deeper discussions. No more the shallow ones. Deep, deep, deep. Because now you're like, you are there already. So you're already a sheikh. Plus, well, in Iraq, as soon as you land, you wear dishdashe, the kurta, you wear topinyana. Already identified, this one is here to study. They already call you sheikh in Iraq. That's how it is. You see, I'm mentioning this because even with all of us, even if you just became Muslim last week, people are already looking at you to be an ambassador from today. So it is a responsibility upon all of us, to remember this responsibility of being good representatives of Islam. You have found Islam. Find yourself in Islam so that others can find Islam through you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us be better Muslims than we are. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not take us from this life except that we are good Muslims. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us lanterns for others in this darkness to find Islam, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send the reward of Al-Fatiha to the deceased and to the ill and to all those who have needs, minor or major. And before it, Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.